Let's now shift attention to Akwa Ibom State, where there are concerns about the authentic list of candidates who emerged during the senatorial and House of Representatives primaries.
Indeed. Well, let's dip in the conversation as a lawyer, Valentine Ovia joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
You're welcome, thank you.
And I do apologize about the name. Mr. Valentine, I think a good place to start would be to know what your position is. INEC says, you know, we do have a list. We monitored. There was a successful Congress that led to primaries of some official positions. However, some other people decided to carry out their own, which we did not monitor. And as a result, there are no candidates for those seats. Where do you stand?
I don't think it's a question of where I stand. It should really be a question of where does the law stand.
Great. That's a good place to start.
Yes. And let's start by saying that INEC has done no such thing. INEC has not disqualified anybody at all. What really happened is that some people without the powers or consent of INEC went to the press to issue some press releases that certain individuals were disqualified. INEC consists of the chairman and the National Electoral Commissioners, the NECs. And until that body collectively, as a group, issues any press release to you saying that they have met, deliberated on an issue, voted on it, nobody can speak on their behalf, not even the rec of a state.
Right.
Yes.
So is it a case of disqualification on the part of INEC or recognition? Based on what we know so far, there were primaries held by two different factions. And INEC is saying this particular primary that was monitored by us, INEC, is the one we're going to recognize according to, the Electoral Act, Section 84(1). Is that not what is at play here?
No.
What is it then?
What is at play is that the party has submitted the list of their candidates to INEC. And from that stage onwards, the next step in the electoral process, as stipulated by law, is simply this. INEC must publish what the party submitted to them. That is all. But INEC has no role whatsoever to play. INEC cannot reject any list submitted by any political party to them.
Even when they did not monitor,
powers.
Because it is not the duty of INEC to conduct primaries or congresses. However, they are required by law to monitor. And so when INEC, the electoral body, says such a primary did not hold, and so you cannot generate lists for a primary we did not monitor. When you say that INEC did not disqualify, are you aware that the APC does not have a candidate for the Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District?
Every political party, including the APC, they all have candidates for the general elections coming up next year, as long as that party submitted list of candidates to INEC.
You did not respond to
Hold
my
on, I'm responding.
question.
I'm coming. Just be patient. What the problem is here is that you are fixated on the mindset that INEC has powers to reject or disqualify anybody at all.
No. Let's get this right so we don't mix it up, and because of time.
That is what I'm trying to clarify.
Can INEC accept list of candidates from a primary that it did not monitor?
Whether it monitored it or did not monitor it, it cannot reject that list. That is what I've been repeatedly saying.
Okay.
And that is the position of the law. If you want to disqualify anybody, the only institution in the entire country that has the powers to disqualify anybody or any political party from participating in the general elections, that institution, that is the law court.
Okay, so
not
now,
INEC.
Okay.
Let's be clear on that. What happened last week? What happened last week was simply this, that an employee of INEC engaged the press and misled the nation. And when he said that INEC disqualified certain people, INEC never did such a thing. That's what I'm saying here.
An employee of INEC.
Yes, I'm referring to the rec of Akwa Ibom State.
Right.
He granted some press interviews.
And the person of Mike Guinea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I granted some press interviews, and he said INEC has disqualified certain individuals. That is not true.
Now, the bone of contention is the Northwest Senatorial Zone of Akwa Ibom State that Senator Godswill Akpabio, former Minister for Niger Delta Affairs, he represented that senatorial district. Of course, he became minister, ran for presidency, you know, of course, and all of that. We all know what has happened. Did Godswill Akpabio, Senator Godswill Akpabio, emerge from a valid party primaries?
Definitely.
How?
How is very simple. All party primaries are valid until a court of law nullifies it. Do you understand that? It's very basic. The party, his party, the APC, they have organized their primaries and they have represented that he won the primaries and they did submit his name to INEC. It is valid. INEC cannot pronounce on the validity or invalidity of that primaries. It is only a court of law that can do that.
Right.
As of today, as we speak, we all know that the party submitted his name, so definitely he's the valid candidate of the party.
When exactly did this primary hold? There was the one that was supposed to hold on May 27th that did not happen. When exactly did the Akpabio primary hold?
Now, let's get this very clear.
Okay.
When the date on which the party primaries of any party holds is not important as long as the party holds it and submits the list of its candidates before the deadline stipulated by law. And then yesterday I watched your program and I listened to the rec from Akwa Ibom State. I understand your question
On
where
the
he said,
show.
yes, on the morning show, where he did say that that the party primaries had already been concluded before Mr. Pabio came to feature in a subsequent party primary. I think that was what he said yesterday, right?
Right.
He's completely wrong. In the first place, party primary elections are simply the internal affairs of a party, and they can conduct it, repeat it, reconduct it as many times as they want. What the law just demands of them is, look, make sure you conclude this process and submit the list of your candidates to INEC before a certain date.
Yeah, but what would be the basis of repeating a primary? If
That
one
is-
primary had held and
Yes.
then you're holding another one, what exactly would be the basis of doing
The
that?
basis, the reasons for repeating that is entirely up to the party.
Okay.
That is a political decision that the law allows them to make.
Okay, so are you also aware that there's a statement that Mr. Ekpo stepped down for former Minister Godswill Akpabio? Are you also aware that there were issues with the numbers of delegates registered for this primary? The returning officer for that controversial primary said, 540 delegates, voted. However, there were only 512 delegates that were accredited to vote in this primary. So with all of that, do you still make a case that, this is valid and this should fly?
Can I ask you a very simple question?
Yes, please.
This primary election you are referring to, is it that of APC?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have any
Aren't you here to
complaints?
speak on
Yes.
the
Do you
APC?
have any complaint from APC that they have any quarrel with that primaries?
Are there two factions?
No, I'm
of the
coming.
APC?
I just asked a
Are there
question.
two factions?
But there are
Is
two
there-
factions.
is-
It's
No,
not,
not
it's not
factions.
complaint.
No, you don't
There
have
are two
factions.
factions of the APC in Akwa Ibom.
No, you don't.
You don't have two factions.
No, you don't. You can't even have two
But there were
factions.
two primaries.
Legally, you cannot have two factions.
And that's
Please.
why
You
INEC
don't
is
have-
saying they
hold
can
on,
only
hold on.
recognize one.
And I said earlier on that INEC is not in position to recognize.
Okay, I think
or
we
not
do understand your
recognize any.
position.
But let's make this very clear. When you talk about factions, you're talking about who constitutes probably the executive of the party, right?
State
Right.
chairman.
Okay, good. Now, I'm aware that there is a valid court judgment which clearly stipulated the group of individuals who constitute the executive of the APC in Akwa Ibom
In Akwa
State.
Ibom.
In the face of that judgment, in the light of that judgment, how can anybody, especially the rec of the state, represent to the nation that there are factions? Is he saying that he's in a position to discountenance that judgment and ignore it?
Not as Mike Guinea or REC, but as INEC. Is INEC in the position to discountenance any primary that it did not
INEC
monitor?
is not in a position to discountenance any judgment of the court. And therefore, there are no factions in that state.
Okay, let me just, bring this. There is supposed to be a 21-day mandatory notice given to INEC that a primary would be holding in line, of course, with the Electoral Act 84-1. This primary that produced Senator Godswill Akpabio, did it meet this particular criteria?
Is there any complaint from any quarters that it did not? No. So definitely yes.
It met the 21 days notification requirement.
Definitely.
So what is is this much ado about nothing?
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
That is what I've been trying to emphasize. What has happened is that the rec of that state, Akwa Ibom State, is misguiding the nation.
In what way exactly? Because he's INEC, he's the regulator of that election.
Point of correction, he is not INEC. INEC is the chairman and the National Electoral Commissioners. INEC is not the REC.
But
the
INEC,
resident elector.
Hold on. Let me clarify. Rerun election.
Hold on. Let me finish this clarification because you said he's
INEC. Yes. Because you are the lawyer and you should know better. Let's bring up something from the Electoral Act. That is Section 84, subsection 13 of the Electoral Act 2022. Where a political party fails to comply with the provisions of this act in the conduct of its primaries, its candidate for election shall not be included in the election for the particular position in issue.
Yes.
So the question is, was Senator Godswill Akpabio
the question
on the
is,
list?
Who is the person who is to pronounce on the exclusion of a political party or the candidates? That is the exclusive preserve of the law courts. It doesn't matter the law that you draw to my attention. If your contention is that somebody has contravened that law, and because of that contravention, that individual or that party should be excluded from the elections, there is only one institution in this country that can take that decision, not INEC.
Nigeria's Electoral Act 2022
yes,
is a guideline for running the
election. That act, that particular law, deprived INEC of the powers to exclude anybody.
Okay, and that's a good place to leave this conversation.
We'll have to leave it there.
And
so we don't get even, we'll stay on this.
That power is vested in the courts only, not INEC.
We'll see how that goes, Mr. Valentine Ovia, but thank you so much for coming on the news tonight. We do appreciate your time so far.